Hey everyone, today we're going to make a Slimline pen, one of the easiest pens you can make. We're going to make this one out of mahogany. I'm going to start by marking the wood blank with the brass tubes that come with the pen kit. Then I'll cut the two halves to size using the bandsaw. Using a 7mm brad point drill bit at the drill press, I'll drill through the center of each half. I'm going to glue these brass tubes into the blanks, so here I'm just taking 80 grit sandpaper to rough up the outside of the brass tubes, just to give the glue something to stick to. I'm coating the tubes with a thick super glue before I insert them into the pen blanks. I'll use an accelerator that you can pick up at a hardware store to make the drying time just go a little faster. Back at the drill press, I'm using a pen mill to mill off any extra wood that overhangs or sits out past the brass tubes. I want to clean up each blank, drill away enough material down to where it's just touching the brass tubes. And this tool also will clean out any excess super glue that may get in the tube, making installation easier later down the road. Here I'm installing the wood blanks to the pen mandrel using the pen bushing kit that you can purchase for each style of pen that you're making. I'm measuring each bushing to match it up with each pen component, the cap and the point and the center ring, just to make sure I got the right bushing in the right place. Next I'll install the mandrel and the wood blanks to the lathe. I'll set my tool rest up so that my roughing gouge is roughly at the middle of the wood. Now I'm turning away the material from each pen blank. I want to take the material down till it meets the bushings on each side, so you can use multiple different tools for that. I tend to, when I'm making pens, I use just one roughing gouge. A lot of people use a skew or a spindle gouge, or there's a bunch of different tools that you can accomplish the same results, but for me it's just easy to use a roughing gouge. I'm going to do quite a bit of sanding later, so I'm not real concerned with getting a super fine finish from my turning tools at this stage. After I've turned the material down with my gouge, I can stop the lathe and start setting up to do some sanding. I'll start sanding with a 120 grit sandpaper, and I'll move my way up to a 220 grit, then move through the 400 grit, and finish around the 800 grit if I'm making a wood pen like this. After the sanding's complete, I'll use mineral spirits to wipe down the entire pen to make sure I've gotten all sawdust and all dirt off of the pen. Next I'll apply a thin coat of boiled linseed oil on with a paper towel, rubbing it into the pen to make sure I get it on all the surface. I like to use super glue as a finish on these pens. It goes on really quick and easy, it's durable, and it looks pretty good when it's finished. Here I'm applying it using the same towel that has a little bit of the boiled linseed oil left on it. The trick here is to don't put too much on your paper towel and to constantly keep the paper towel moving. If you hold it in one spot while the lathe's spinning, sometimes it'll grab, creates quite a mess. You'll end up having to sand the whole thing back down and start over again. If you keep the paper towel moving with super glue on it, you shouldn't have any problems. Now back at the bench, I'm ready to take the wood off the mandrel and install the pen parts. Once I start building the pen, there's no turning back and I could ruin the parts. So I do a quick measurement with calipers just to make sure I'm going to be installing all the parts to the right part of the pen. First I'll install the point to the end of the brass tube on the one half of the blank, and then I will use my vise to press these parts together. Here I'm doing the same technique to install the transmission of the pen. There's a line on the transmission on most kits that I've seen that you just press in the transmission until it hits that line onto the pen blank and you know you're far enough. The last part is to install the clip in the end cap onto the other half of the pen blank. Install the center ring and slide the second half of the pen blank onto the transmission, and you're all set.